I remember when I was a broke college student, I was living in Joplin, Missouri, and working at fast food and trying to make some money to pay for school and do my own thing. And my buddy Matt had this great idea. He found out that the local country club was hiring. And so about 4 of us from the dorm decided free golf sounds pretty good. And so we all applied, and we all got jobs, and we were very popular in our dorm for about 3 or 4 months because we could bring all the guys out and play golf together when it was not busy, and it was a good time. I ended up working there for about 3 years, and they even put me in charge of the restaurant. The whole I was the manager of the restaurant. I had no idea what I was doing, but it was a good job for the time. And I remember this being a local club. It's not it's a neighborhood country club. It's not fancy. It's not it's not bad. It's just a golf course, a club. And so it was run by a good old boy named Ray, and he kind of ran it like a good old boy network. It was just kind of everybody did with their own thing. And midway through my time there, the club was sold to a couple from Sonoma Valley in California. I don't know why they decided to move from Sonoma Valley to Carl Junction, Missouri, but they did, and it was a bit of a culture shock for them. Well, they wanted to make some improvements to the club, make it a little more prestigious, and so they established a uniform to wear, and they established some standards, and they were all very good. This is not a criticism of them. He really did a nice job with the club. Well, what happened was, being a broke college student, there was a time when I had a couple of my uniforms, and I didn't get them washed. And so I showed up to work one day, and with the new standards and the new uniforms and all that, I had dress pants on. I had the right shirt on, but I was wearing the wrong color dress pants. I was having a bad week. I couldn't get my stuff together. Well, it turns out my boss was also having a bad week because he let me know all about it. And he let me know I had a few days off to think about things and to make sure that I could get my clothes cleaned on time. And he really kind of handed it to me, and I deserved it. I needed to hear it because I wasn't following the standards that I knew. It's not that big a deal. So I went home, I got everything cleaned up, I came back to work my Saturday morning shift, and I walked in, and word had spread around the country club that the boss wasn't pleased with me. And I was friends with the members. I'd been there a year or so, year and a half, and so I remember I could see his face. His name was Dave, and he walks up to me and pulls me aside before he goes out to play his round, and he says, I want to do something for you. I said, what are you talking about, Dave? He said, well, I want to buy you a pair of pants because I heard you got chewed out. I was like, no, you don't have to buy me a pair of pants. Everything is taken care of. I just didn't get my job done. And he says, no, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to give you this check, and you're going to take it, and then I'll tell you why. And so I opened up the check and looked at it, and this is mid-'90s, and I remember I'm a college student. I don't have any money. It was $500. It was a significant amount of money in my circumstance at the time. And he says that someone when I was your age did this for me, and the only rule they gave me is that I have to do it for someone else when I have the means to and find the need. And you're that someone. I want to bless you. I went, okay, well, thank you. And I was blown away by it. I remember another time when I was waiting tables. We had moved to Kentucky, just gotten married, and Robin was in graduate school, and I didn't want a master's degree at that time. I was done with school. And so I was waiting tables. I didn't want to work at a church just for a paycheck, so I was waiting tables because we knew we weren't going to stay there long term, so I didn't want to just stay there a couple of years and then move on. I didn't want to work for a paycheck at a church. I felt like it needed to be more than that. And so I was waiting tables, and I remember distinctly a Monday evening, which is kind of the desert for restaurant workers. You don't know what you're going to get that night. It's usually not the busiest night. And I remember being broke and sitting in my car outside the restaurant about to go in for my shift and thinking, God, are you really here? We are behind on every bill. I don't know how we're going to pay for the semester. I don't know what we're going to do. I'm doubting everything. You know, you get that way from time to time with God. I'm doubting everything. Just show me a sign. Give me any kind of a sign that you're still with us. Just, would you give us one tip, one large tip, just to show me? Well, I walk in on the first table I waited on. Sure enough, they give me a $50 tip, and they say to me these words, we felt like we needed to bless you. And I went, okay, God, I get it. I shouldn't have doubted. That night, I went on to make more money on a Monday night than I've made in all my years waiting tables. It wasn't life-changing money. It didn't fix all the problems, but it let me know God is still in control of things. and he is in the business of blessing his people. Blessings come in different sizes. Sometimes they're big, sometimes they're tiny. I'm going to ask you in a minute, because once again, they put me in charge today, and so this is what we're going to do. I'm going to ask you in a minute to stand up and go tell someone else that's not in your family or group some of the blessings that you've received. I want to testify it, okay? I want you to tell each other a blessing. Someone around the room, maybe if you don't know them, that's even better. If you're uncomfortable with this, I'm sorry. I'm not really. I'm an old youth pastor. This is the kind of things we do. If you're a guest, you don't have to do this, okay? But if you're a member of this church or someone who comes regularly, I'm going to ask you to do it. If you're watching online, this is what I alluded to earlier. I would like for you to type in a time in the comments about a time you were blessed. I would like to hear it. We see you. We read the comments each week. We know who you are. Tell us the way God's blessed you. I'm going to tell you one more story of a blessing to give you a minute to think about it before we do this little exercise. I was praying with Willie. Pastor Willie has become one of my closest friends over the years, and we pray every Monday. Usually we try to, and sometime we just decided early on that we were just going to be real with each other at all times, and so we have an honesty and a camaraderie that I've not had with many friends in my life, and Willie's remarkable. You guys know this, but we were praying one time, and it was one of those prayers where it was just kind of heavy. You know, we don't know what to do, God. We're looking for your face. We need your wisdom. Would you guide us? Would you show us? We weren't doubting he was there. We were just pleading with him to show us what to do and show us how to operate. And it was getting kind of heavy in his office, in the room. And all of a sudden his phone rings. And these are what I'm talking about with blessings. Sometimes they're huge, sometimes they're tiny. But his phone rings and he looks down and he says, I've got to take this. And it was his granddaughter. She lives in Texas, and he's giving her lessons by Zoom. I think he likes the idea of passing on his skills down to somebody else, but I also think he likes just the idea that his granddaughter calls him each week, because he lit up when he saw it was her, says, I have to take this, and answers it. And before we even knew it, the heaviness in the room was gone, because all we heard was this sweet little voice, Pop, Pop, I've learned the stuff that you told me to learn. My mom is telling me I'm doing it wrong, but I know that I'm doing it right. And Pop, I need you to tell me that I'm doing it right. And it was just the sweetest, cutest, wonderful little thing. And it was a blessing from God. He lightened the atmosphere. He lightened the room. He let us know that it was okay. Jesus tells us all the time in the New Testament that those who have ears to hear and those who have eyes to see can see what God is doing. It's a different kind of vision than just looking. This is what I'm talking about, the blessing today. This is what I want you to see today, is that when we fully depend upon God to supply the blessing for us, we start seeing all the ways in which he does it. And so I've given you some time now. If it's awkward, that's all right. What I want you to do is I would like you to stand up and go find somebody else that you don't know, or you may know them, but someone who's not in your family, and I want you to testify to each other some of the blessings that you've received, big or small. So let's start the music, and it's only as weird as you make it. Let's do it. All right. Thank you very much for participating. Don't you just love Jesus? Don't you just love what our God does? When we speak his praises and when we speak his blessings and when we testify with our lips the things that God has done for us, do you see how it changes the temperature in the room? Do you see how it lifts the atmosphere? There's something about saying it out loud. I did a little bit of a study to see what the blessing is all about, where it comes from in our Bible. It wouldn't surprise you to know that it comes from Genesis 1, but it doesn't happen at the beginning of creation. That's not the first time that God says blessings. The first 4 days, God creates all of his things in the whole world that we see, and he says every day that it was what? It was good. It was not until the 5th day, when he made sea creatures and when he made the fish, he said it was good, and then it says he blessed them specifically. And then on the 6th day, he creates the animals and he creates mankind, and he says it was good, but then he blesses them. He says that he blessed them. And I started thinking about, does this give us an insight? Does this give us a picture of who this God is that we're trying to serve and this who we're trying to follow? And I think it really does. Because it's not that the world is not good, it is good. But what is blessed is the ability that he gives us, the same ability that he has to create new life. And that is a very blessed and good thing. And he doesn't leave us all on our own. He blesses them. We start to see, if we look at the old blessings from the rabbis, we see how they did things. Harris, can I borrow you for a second? Would you be embarrassed to come up? The rabbis would say with your children that when you each day you get a hold of your children and you put your hands on them and you say, the Lord bless you, the Lord be with you as you go out among your day, the Lord protect you and keep you safe. Do you think it makes a difference in your kids' lives if you were to do that to them every day? I don't do it to my kids. I'm going to start, Dylan. You're 16 and taller than me, but it's going to happen. It's going to happen. Miley, you too. It's going to happen. Do you think our world would be, thank you very much. Do you think our world would be different if we got up each day and blessed our household that way? It gives them the confidence to go forth knowing that the God of the universe has his eyes on them. It gives them the confidence to go forth that no matter what happens, no matter what I encounter that day, I know that the Lord is with me. This is not a magical thing. This is not a New Age thing or some ceremony that we do just for to invoke a power. No. It's not that at all. But it's deeply meaningful and it's deeply spiritual because God says, if you will put my name on something, if you will put my favor on something, I can then act upon it and make it great. And so it's the act of putting God's name upon our child, God's name upon our business, God's name upon our property, God's name upon our families, God's name upon our neighbors, that we can bless them. And this is the act of the blessing so that God could start to move for them. It's a beautiful thing. I've done this today. There are hundreds of blessings that you can choose from in the Bible. I think that a lot of them apply to the situation in the Bible and the context that it is, but I think they also apply to us today. There's some debate. I'm not interested in getting into the specifics of the debates of which ones do and which ones don't. I've chosen 4 today. If you choose to believe differently, that's okay. That's okay. But I've chosen 4 that I think touch us in our situations that we might find ourselves in life. And they're broad. And here's the other interactive part of the sermon today. What I would like you to do is when you hear these blessings, I could say nice words over you. I could try to pontificate and give like a good speech and all that stuff. But I don't want to do that. I want to give God's blessing to you. I want to give the blessing from God's own word and put that on you. That way it's God doing the work instead of me. I'm just presenting it. But what I want you to do today is when you hear these blessings, if they apply to you in your moment and they apply to you in your heart and you feel that little just tug on the inside of you, that's the Holy Spirit. That's the Holy Spirit saying, pay attention. This is for you. And if you get that in any of these, I want you to claim it right away. God, this is what I need. God, this is your word and it's speaking life into me. Give this to me, God. This is what I need. Pay attention to that tingling that you get. It might be for one of them. It might be for none. It might be for all 4. It's not exclusive. You can claim all of them you want. But this is what we're going to do. I'm going to give a little bit of comment from each one of them, but I want the word to speak to you today. It's James 1:12 says this. Blessed is the man who perseveres under trial, because when he has stood the test, he will receive the crown of life that God has promised to those who love him. Let's read it again. Blessed is the man who perseveres under trial, because when he has stood the test, he will receive the crown of life that God has promised to those who love him. If you've gone to church here at all in the last 5 or 6 years, you will know, because we've been taught this by our good Pastor Gary, we will know that there are 5 crowns that are awarded to people when they go into heaven. I'm not going to give you all 5 of them. This is your homework today. This is good for you to get into your word and figure them out. The crown of life is one of them. It talks about it in Revelation 2:10. This one in James talks about being the people who are under trial, who are under struggle. Revelation 2:10 talks specifically about you're going to be thrown in jail and you're going to be persecuted, but you'll receive the crown of life. And so I started wondering again, what is this? What is this crown of life? It turns out that everybody who goes to heaven, everybody who meets God and finds his favor gets the crown of life. And I started wondering, is it because everybody's going to go through persecution? And then I realized, no, it's not that at all. It's because everybody who's a Christian is going to undergo some kind of trouble. There's going to be a portion in your life, a section in your life where you have to make a decision based on your values and based on your morals to either compromise or stay true to what God has asked of you. There's going to come a time when you are going to be under trial at your job because of the way you have to conduct yourself because you're a Christian. There's going to be a time at school when you have to give an answer that's not popular because you can't compromise the morals that you have as a Christian. Those are all troubles. There's also going to be a time when things aren't going right in your life. Everybody takes a turn. And you can wake up each day and go, God, where are you? What are you doing? Why are you allowing this to happen to me? Why are you allowing me to go through this? Why won't you make a way? There's going to be those troubling times as well. It's universal. Everyone's going to feel that from time to time. What God says is if you will allow this blessing, if you will allow me to speak over you and speak into your situation and speak for you, and if you put my name upon you, you are going to be given the crown of life because you have endured in my name. That is a blessing for people who are troubled. If that's you today, if you're going through a hard time, claim this blessing for yourself. Number 6, 24 through 26, this is a very familiar passage for us as well here at church. It says, the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face toward you and give you peace. We know this is the priestly blessing that Moses gave to Aaron the high priest, and he was instructed to speak this blessing over the nation of Israel, the children of God, over and over and over and over. And it's really a remarkable passage. It's for the ones who are troubled in their mind. It's the ones who are having trouble sleeping at night because something's just not quite right. It's for the ones who don't have peace about what's happening in the world and don't have a certainty about what to do or the wisdom about where to go. This is the blessing for you if you're feeling those things. This is the blessing that says, God, would you please just give me your attention? God, would you please turn your face towards me? I don't know what else to do. Would you be the good father that you've promised to be? Would you just hold me for a little bit and give me comfort? God, would you just be here for me? Would you just give me a little attention? It's a wonderful thing to pray. God is so good to us. We know that he chases after us. We know that he pursues us. We know that he forgives us and restores us and makes us better and all that stuff. But he's so amazing because when you think about it, he established this practice of this phrase to be spoken over his own children. He did it before we even knew we would need it. He knew. It is no surprise to him the things that you go through in this world and the times you get mixed up. It's no surprise to him. He's already put the mechanism in place to bless you and bring you back to rightness with him. And he did it and he established it so that we would constantly, all of us, be hearing it, that God will turn his face towards me and he will give me his peace. What a wonderful God we serve. It is amazing that he's done this for us. If you need peace in your life today, claim this blessing. Claim it. Tell God you need it. You need his attention. Deuteronomy 7:13 says, he will love you. Excuse me, I skipped one. Sorry, we're going to go back to it. 2 Corinthians 9, 8 through 9 says this, and God is able to bless you abundantly so that in all things, at all times, having all that you need, there's a lot of alls in that. Do you hear that? I'll say it again. And God is able to bless you abundantly so that in all things, at all times, having all that you need, you will abound in every good work. As it is written, they have freely scattered their gifts to the poor, their righteousness endures forever. This one really struck me. I preached on this a couple of weeks ago. It wasn't this passage. We could preach for a month on 2 Corinthians 9. It's an amazing, that's homework number 2. Read 2 Corinthians this week. It's good stuff, especially chapter 9. But we talked about the idea of laboring, our labor of love and serving others and pouring ourselves out for others so that God would refill us, so that we could pour ourselves out again so that God would refill us. This one struck me this week because I think that there are some of us in here who are pouring their lives out over and over and over, and you don't feel appreciated. And you don't feel loved, and you don't feel thanked, and you feel unseen. And you're sure God blesses and God gives you contentment and God gives you what you need, but sometimes you guys pour yourselves out over and over and no one just says, good job, you're doing really well. And we're humans. We like to hear that from time to time. Let me speak for God today, if I'd be so bold. God is proud of you. He is proud of your devotion, and he is proud of your service. He goes so far to say that your righteousness will endure forever when you pour yourself out for him. Over and over. So be of good cheer. If you are serving and nobody sees you doing it, and you just wish that somebody knew, our God knows. This is interesting. It's interesting to me, at least. And I'm no Greek scholar, and so I'm going to say this word incorrectly. Most of you won't know it anyway, but it's okay. It's autarkia. When Paul starts talking in English, he says all these phrases. He'll bless you abundantly so that in all things and at all times, having all that you need and all you will abound in every good work. It's a lot of phrases to talk about the sufficiency of God. Like he's got everything, so he can give you everything that he needs. But this is not what it means in Greek. It's not talking about the sufficiency of possessing everything. He's talking about having independence in your sufficiency. It's describing someone who has maybe amassed some things, but they've not directed their life to amass everything. They have it, but they didn't direct their lives to do it. What it specifically means is that it is directed towards eliminating needs. I have what I have so that I can eliminate the needs around me. And I go around doing good works to eliminate your need and to eliminate the need I see here, to eliminate the need I see here. I may have everything, but God is so sufficient that he equips people to eliminate the needs of those around him. And when you do that, he blesses you and says your righteousness endures forever. Do you see how this works? This idea of you can't outgive God, either with your money or your time or your devotion, any of that stuff. You can't outgive it because he is in the business of meeting needs. And he does it through you, and he is proud of you. Keep at it. If that is the blessing that you need today, claim it. The last one we're going to look at is Deuteronomy 7:13, and it says, he will love you and bless you and multiply you. He will also bless the fruit of your womb and the fruit of your ground, your grain and your wine and your oil, the increase of your herds and the young of your flock in the land that he swore to your fathers to give you. When I was studying up on this one, I came across a commentator, and he says this, it's a quote, he says, forgetfulness and complacency is something that all of us are prone to. That's true for me. I forget where I am. I forget the ways God's blessed me, and I forget the way God's moved in me. I get a little woe is me at times, feel bad for myself, wondering where God is, but we forget what he's done for us. At this time in history, in Deuteronomy, the people of God have been freed from their captivity. They have been led into the desert. They've seen miracles of crossing the Red Sea. They've seen God provide the food and the sustenance that they need. He leads them by smoke in the daytime and by a fire at nighttime. He protects them from the enemies around them, and yet they keep messing up. They keep going exactly against what he's asked them to do. And God is saying, would you just please remember? Would you please remember, if you would just give me your devotion, if you would just give me your time, if you would just give me the things that matter to you, let me take care of it. And he says, if you will give me your heart, I will love you and bless you and multiply you. And I will bless the fruit of your womb and the fruit of your ground and your grain and your wine and your oil, the increase of your herds and the flock, the young of your flock in the land that he swore your fathers to give you. I'm not preaching a prosperity gospel where it says that he's going to make you rich. What I'm saying is that when you give him your time and you give him your possessions and you put his name upon them and you put his name upon your family, it says that he's going to give you what you need to make it. It's a very bold thing to stand up here and speak for God. It's a scary thing to do this. But it's not so scary when I'm just repeating the words that he has already written, that he has already given. Pastor Willie likes to say all the time that you say it out loud. You repeat God's words back to him and remind him of what he said already, that this pleases God and he enacts on your behalf. And so today, I've read 4 blessings over you. For those of you who are dealing with trials or problems, the James is the blessing for you. For those of you who just don't have any peace with the situation at hand in life or in our nation or whatever it is, the Numbers blessing speaks to you. God's already taken care of it. For those of you who are serving others and just wish that someone noticed or just wished you knew how to serve better, 2 Corinthians speaks to you. And for those of you who are worried about your things and your career and your family and your children and all of those things, Deuteronomy speaks to you. God has these things under control. And so when we take community today, I would like you to come up and I would like you to claim whatever blessing that is that God has spoken to you as you kneel at the rail or as you sit in your seat, and just tell him his own words. God, this is what you've said. This is what I need. And he will be so pleased to hear it.